Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to another podcast. Welcome, Dr. Omer Atilla Ergi.
Thank you, Dr. Zuleyha. It's good to be here.
Good to have you. Okay, today we're going to be talking about the simulation theory, which is, quite popular around certain circles, let's just say. But do you want to first tell us what is a simulation theory?
Well, there is a theory, or we should really call it a thought experiment.
Okay.
Not theory. Maybe a hypothesis, you can say as well. Look, it's based on the idea, something like Matrix-like. You remember the movie Matrix?
Yes. So
Something
I
like
think many of us have watched it.
Yes. Some people believe that we are living in a simulation. All of us are some form of algorithms, part of a program. We don't really have physical existence, material existence. So that's the main, theory. Yeah.
So that I can understand this theory a bit better. So what we see now, are they saying this isn't real?
No, it's like we're like avatars, like in a video game. So we don't really have physical bodies.
Right.
We're just made up of numbers.
Numbers,
Yeah.
okay. And so what makes us feel like we're real according to this hypothesis?
Yeah, that's interesting too. But yeah, like in an algorithm that you can make beings or avatars believe that they really exist because you can make them, move around, jump around, interact with each other.
Okay.
So in a way, it's saying that we are being deluded, we are being deceived.
Oh, wow. That really changes a lot of things, because if you think you're not real, then it's like, well, my relationship with my daughter is not real, my son, they're not real, I'm not real. It completely shifts the way we think about life, doesn't it?
Yes. It means that those children are not really your children.
Oh, my goodness.
You don't have really a family member, or members, we should say. They're all just projections of the algorithm, that's all. Yeah.
So where did this stem from? I know we're going to talk about responding to this hypothesis, but where did it stem from?
In the modern era, when people look at things like, quantum physics and so on, they see all the probabilities there, superposition, uncertainty principle, and so on. They think that all of these things are part of a grand, sort of a program. And they all play a role. They like coding and numbers, and so that leads them to think that we may not truly exist in a physical form. But it does go back to some religious ideologies as well. But we'll talk about that.
Okay. All right, let's do that. But let's start with the scientific. What's the scientific response to something like this?
Yes. Look, from a scientific perspective. I could say it is just a thought experiment, as I said before. An idea or a claim, we could say, or maybe at best you can say it's an hypothesis. It's not a theory or anything like that, because there is no reliable scientific evidence or testable evidence to support it. And we can critically analyze it as well, because when you look at it from a scientific perspective, everything that exists in nature, in the universe, we can actually, test it through experimentation, observation, and we have mathematical calculations, we have constants in the universe. When you look at all the physical constants, for example, laws of motion, laws of thermodynamics, gravity, for example, is a law. So all of these things are testable, and they are able to explain a physical universe, which fits quite perfectly according to our calculations and understanding as well. But on the contrary, when you look at the simulation hypothesis, there's nothing that's supporting it. There is no testable, reliable evidence to support it. So there is another thing maybe we can include, which is Occam's razor. The best way to explain something is the simplest way. Yeah. And all the materials that we have, from a scientific perspective and empirical evidence shows that we are living in a physical universe. So there is no need to go into an explanation like that. It is a fantastic, we could say, idea.
The simulation. It sounds fascinating. It sounds like we're in a video game.
Yes.
I think it's like the imagination going a bit above and beyond.
Haywire.
Haywire.
Imagination is going
Yeah,
haywire. And it's denial of your own existence.
Yeah.
That's another
It's
thing,
huge implications,
Yeah,
doesn't
so
it?
from a scientific perspective, there's nothing to support it.
Mm.
It might sound like a fun idea, but there is nothing to support it from a scientific perspective. There are other things, arguments we can put forward. Like if we say we are in a simulation, there is the issue of infinite regress as well.
Okay.
So we might say, the simulator, which is simulating us, could be a simulation itself. Then what is simulating that universe? And then what is simulating that universe? And you'll go into an infinite regress, which, it's endless. You'll never end up with anything.
Yeah, it sounds like the simulation theory hasn't really thought too much about what the simulator might be. Is that correct?
Yes.
Because that creates its own questions.
Yes. Look, from a sci-fi perspective, because it's not science fact, it's a sci-fi.
Yeah.
They might have ideas like some very advanced alien civilization is simulating us.
Okay.
So, but that goes into infinite regress, as I said. Then who is simulating them? What is simulating them? You will enter into an infinite regress, which is philosophically not acceptable either.
So this seems to it creates more questions than answers. The more you try to delve into it and try to understand it.
And from a logistic perspective, you got to think about this too. What sort of a competing, advanced competing system would you need to simulate an entire universe?
It has to be very advanced.
Think about that. You're going to simulate every photon, every electron, every gluon, every little atomic particles, all the baryons in the universe, hadrons, everything. So, look, it's very, like you said, it is a fantasy.
Yeah, it sounds very sophisticated, but yet that sophisticated thing is simulated itself. So it's like this.
Yes.
Yeah.
The idea would keep on going.
Keep on going.
And look, we can approach it from a philosophical perspective too, if you
What's
like, about simulation. There are certain things just doesn't make sense, with the simulation thing. The first question would be who is, like you said, who is simulating us? And what purpose do they have? What is the purpose?
Because they would have to have some kind of conscience to be able to do all this, right?
Of course. Yeah, of course. To have a program like this, such a huge, immense program that simulates a universe that has 2 trillion galaxies in it, So what sort of a being or who are they, you could say, because some people are saying there's some advanced, alien civilization. Then what purpose would they have, because you have to have some purpose. If you say, look, they're experimenting with us, but that doesn't make sense because we are not real anyway. Why would you experiment with something that's not real anyway? It's their own program. So it doesn't make sense. And there are many things that we can argue, like there are certain things that cannot be simulated. One is consciousness. Like human beings have consciousness. We have emotions, we have objectivity, we have subjectivity at the same time. And this doesn't match with a simulation, ability to make decisions, feel things, discover new things, invent new things. The universe is constantly, expanding. We know that it had a beginning, it keeps on expanding, it doesn't match with an idea of simulation. Sometimes I think about it when I thought about this theory or the hypothesis. I say to myself, if someone is simulating us, why have things like, make us go to sleep? We sleep every day. We get tired. What's the purpose in that? Because we're on their simulation, we shouldn't feel those things. We shouldn't need them. Are they just waiting for us to go to bed and wake up again? And of course, simulation should, from a philosophical and scientific perspective as well, should have sometimes glitches. We don't have any glitch in the universe. It is possible that, sometimes we wake up in the morning, we have 6 fingers or 7 toes, because it's simulation. Or suddenly a hand disappears, or the moon suddenly disappears. If it was, there should be glitches somewhere. It can't be that perfect, the entire universe. So I don't think, from a philosophical and scientific perspective, there's any evidence to it
I
at all.
think particularly your point about it's complex as human beings with regards to our emotions, with our thoughts, with our consciousness. This just seems like it's way beyond simulation. We're not like a
Yes.
robot. We're such a complex being.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the best approaches. But of course, at the same time, as I said, what the evidence we have indicates that we do live in a materialistic or physical world.
There's enough scientific
There's
evidence
an
for that.
explanation anyway.
Yeah, it really sounds very sci-fi. So what about religious? What are religious arguments against simulation theory?
Yes, as I said, look, with the simulation theory, it's quite modern, some people might say, but not really, because it does have some roots in, I should say, tasawwuf, like Sufism. Not in Ahl Sunnat wal Jamaat theology, Aqidah, in tasawwuf. But tasawwuf scholars are, of course, Ahl Sunnat too. But Sufism has very interesting ideas sometimes, because if we look at it from a Aqidah perspective, Ahl Sunnat wal Jamaat Aqidah perspective, you can have a look at the most renowned, prominent Aqidah scholars' views and their sources, and you will see that they all have included this in their books. Ashya, the existence of Ashya, is real. It is a fact. Ashya is matter, the things that exist physically. And they all included that. And some of the main reasons that they did that is because Allah has names, Allah has sifats, Khalik, the creator. If we are just simulation, that means Allah doesn't create.
He just simulates, which is very different.
Simulates, and it means you are sort of indicating a deficiency in His creation. It's a terrible thing. So Ahl Sunnat wal Jamaat says we are created. Matter exists, physical universe exists. And moreover, we see this in the Quran anyway. He created the heavens and the earth, the moon, the sun, the stars, the mountains. It's specifically. In fact, the Quran talks about tiny details as well, like human creation, what we are made up of, living beings, created from water. So they're all physical things.
Talking about physical entities, there even where it says a leaf does not drop without his knowledge. So things are happening, physically happening without with his knowledge.
Well, otherwise, if we think about the contrary to this, there would be contradiction in our faith as well, in Aqidah, because we would be claiming that Allah is actually, hasha, deceiving us, making us believe that we exist, but we don't exist. But where does it come from? One maybe example I can give you is the famous Sufi scholar, Tasawwuf scholar, and he's a very famous scholar, Muhyiddin Ibn Arabi. In his book, he has this argument where he says, La mawjuda illa hu. There is no existence but him, except Allah. And this is called wahdati wujud in general. But I think there is a misunderstanding in regards to this. People misinterpret the views of these scholars, because what he is intending there, I think this is my ideology. First of all, he is saying how insignificant we are as human beings, compared to the real being, the real creator. He's signifying there maybe how insignificant we are, because even if we were to, use an analogy or allegory here, if you look at an atom, compare it to the universe,
it's almost non-existent.
It's almost non-existent, like you said. So, we are, compared to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we are like non-existence. Maybe that's what he's that's what he's indicating, and it's like a comparison like that. The second thing is, what he's indicating there is contingency. Everything in the universe, although we have physical, material, physical bodies, we are all contingent. We are all dependable on the Creator.
Right.
So we can't exist without Him. So if you can't exist without Him, he's saying, do we really exist? That's what he's saying.
I see.
So our existence is dependable on Him. That's another indication that what he's implying there is we are so little, we are so insignificant. So the real existent being, wajibil wujud, is him, necessarily existent, and we are only possible existence.
So do you think it's like we got stuck on the language? It feels like we got stuck in the language, because in a way we can say we're nothing without Allah, but that doesn't mean we're nothing. It's implying
Yes.
something that Allah is great and we need him to be able to survive and so forth.
Yeah.
So we've kind of taken it literally, it seems.
Yes. And unfortunately, Muslims do that quite often with some things, that literalism is always there. So we are nothing in regards to our significance, physical significance.
Yeah.
But we are something because we exist. He did create us out of nothing because he is the creator. What would, the value of having a sifat tekween, originator, be if there was no existence, if there was no... And as I said, all Islamic sources, all Aqidah sources, they all indicate that, we have physical existence. The universe exists. He created it. And when we go to sleep, as I said before, what happens? Do we go into another simulation? We are already in simulation. We sleep and we are in another world and we go into another simulation. Why does the Quran say, for example, do you think that he will not put your bones together? Assemble your bones together again? They're all physical explanations, which means what is the point of resurrection? And that's another thing. Then there is no resurrection.
Exactly.
When we die, because we're on the simulation, we don't really exist.
And I think your point, two things really stood out to me. One is it would feel like Allah is deceiving us because he's telling us in the Quran, this life is a test. You have, worship me. If we're a simulation, why would he, deceive us to think that we can do all this hasha, which he would not do. But the names of Allah, like you mentioned, the creation one, but also names like, say the all just.
Yes.
If he is the simulator, then, he just, how do we manifest these names, or how do these names play out? How would he, judge if he is the one who's doing everything?
Yeah.
If we don't have the free will to be able to make
program.
decisions, if it's just a program.
Or we just exist in his mind. That's what some people think. We just exist in his mind. It's not real, in his ilm, in his knowledge. But then what is the purpose of, all these obedience, like you said?
Or resurrection, afterlife, heaven, hell, why would they exist if we have... Because in a way, this simulation suggests that we don't have free will.
It does,
And that's
at the end of the day, we're just programs.
We're just programs, and we're doing what we're programmed to do.
Yes.
And from Islamic...
And names like Shafi, for example. We get sick, he heals. Is it just happening in an imaginary world? Don't we really get sick? And all of these things, Was all this effort, He says, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. So he created us so that we may worship him. If we're just simulating, in a simulation, what is the purpose of worship and all of these
That
things?
would read more like, I have programmed you to worship me. It's not like I have created you. It's a very different implication. It takes, again, that free will away from us.
There would be no taklif, and, taklif is offer and acceptance. There would be no concept of, like you said, testing. But we are being offered to believe and to practice, but we are giving free will to accept or not accept. And there are people who doesn't accept, don't believe, don't pray. If he wanted, if it was a simulation, everyone would believe. There would be no, logic in testing. Like
or if they didn't believe, they wouldn't genuinely be accountable because it's part of the simulation again.
Yes.
It seems to have a lot of flaws, that theory or hypothesis.
Yes.
Scientifically, philosophically, Islamic theologically.
Yes.
I'm actually very curious as to how it became somewhat popular when it's got so many flaws. But
I think people are looking to, place creation and God with something else. Just like, parallel universes, multiverse, although it is a possibility that multiverse might exist, but parallel universes, there are similar worlds like ours. There's millions of them, and we all exist in those worlds too, in a different way. And, these are all, fantasies, I think. There's no scientific, no logical, no religious, evidence to support them. But I think people like fantasies. and they want to replace, Hasha, God, with some fantastic, the ideologies like, aliens made us and things like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
So it sounds exciting, fascinating, but also takes the responsibility away from us. I think there's
That's a
that
good point.
aspect of it as well. It's like, well, if I'm simulated, I'm not accountable for my deeds or for my actions.
It's not real anyway.
It's not real anyway, so I can do what I want. It's not real anyway.
Maybe last word I could say
yeah,
this,
please
if
do.
people really believe in this, this type of thing, simulation, just get one lighter, hold it to your hand and burn yourself. See how long you can stand it, see if your hand burns or not. And you will see that whether it's a simulation or you live in a real world.
Yeah, no, that's a very good. I don't know if you want to try that experiment, but if you're really, really convinced that simulation theory is real, you might want to consider that. But yeah, thank you so much for unpacking this theory or hypothesis and shedding light on it. Thanks, Dr. Omer
Thank you.
Atilla Ergi. And see you next time. Assalamu alaikum.